Welcome to the Neurogenic Integration Podcast, where we explore the incredible potential of neurogenic tremoring beyond the basics. I'm Alex Green.
And I am Sylvia Song-Shields. Together, we'll be diving into how this natural, innate process can be seen and applied across different professions, healing modalities, and in scientific research.
Whether you're a practitioner, a coach, a therapist, a body worker, or a researcher, this podcast is for you.
Join us as we uncover the science, share experiences, and explore how neurogenic integration is revolutionizing the way we approach stress, trauma, and well-being.
So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to sit down this afternoon with Lynea Gillen. And I'm Alex Green, based here in Boulder, Colorado, as normal. Lynea is in Portland. And just to introduce my guest briefly, Lynea is a colleague of mine in the TRE certification training world. So she's does that, but that is after a long career on several fronts. She is a licensed counselor with a specialization working with youth. And she and her husband, Jim Gillen, are the founders of an organization called YogaCalm, which is we'll hear a little bit more about it here today, but it's a organization that brings yoga into youth settings, as I understand it. I was reading, I'm going to share these couple of factoids from the YogaCalm website, which is that this curriculum has reached over 24,000 educators and therapists, and YogaCalm activities have impacted over 250,000 children around the country. So very high impact by the sounds of it. So in any case, I've known Lynea, but I haven't had a chance to kind of hear some of her origins in how she got into the work of counseling, TRE, yoga, her deep love for working with youth. And so those are major topics we want to cover today. And then additionally, we want to do a little bit of a special focus on a question that came up recently in some conversations that some of us have been having and around the question of how do we support youth with social media, the downsides of social media, such as social media addiction. And are there anything from somatic practices, nervous system practices, yoga, TRE that can support youth in, what tools can we help them with? So that's another topic we're going to be exploring here today. Lynea, thank you so much for taking time.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Alex. So do you want me to give you a little background on So let me tell you a little bit about how my own journey from childhood, really, because I had some trauma in childhood. And I found yoga. My father sent me to a camp at Tahoe, Lake Tahoe in Nevada. Mm-hmm. And I learned yoga when I was 15.
Wow.
And it worked with the anxiety. And what I realized is that it was working with my body. And it wasn't asking me to change my mind, because everyone kept saying, you just have to stop thinking about your anxiety and it'll go away. But I noticed that a lot of times I wasn't thinking about anxiety at all. It would just hit my nervous system. And then I would be flooded with anxiety, but I had no idea where it was coming from. So I had this difficulty in accepting what the psychotherapists and the counselors and the psychologists were saying at that time with my own reality. And yoga gave me an opportunity to feel that really working with my nervous system impacted me much better than working with my mind. And so I found yoga then, and I kept doing it for the rest of my life. And years later, yoga opened up the trauma through opening my body. And at the time, yoga practitioners didn't know anything about trauma.
Right.
So they just kept telling me to meditate more, do more yoga, and it would go away.
Sure.
And like a good frozen person I was, I kept doing yoga and meditating, and it was not going away. As a matter of fact, it was getting worse, right? It just kept coming up. And the more I did yoga, it particularly came up around shoulder openings. So then I tried to do yoga with my shoulders tight.
Right.
So So I was trying to contract and open at the same time. And so then I started getting into counseling for myself and realized, oh, there's emotions, there's memories that are needing to be cleared. And I need counseling in addition to yoga.
Mm.
Those two work together. But I had to go to the yoga provider to get the body piece and the counselor to get the story piece. They didn't merge.
Okay.
They didn't come together anywhere.
Yeah.
So when I started working with children in schools, I was a school counselor for 20 some years.
Okay.
I did other things. I was in a clinic working with sex abuse survivors. I worked with families that were high trauma, low income, a lot of heavy work in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then and school counseling was a bit heavy too, because I was in a school with a lot of trauma. So I worked in 2 behavior classrooms, and I started to put the two together, yoga and counseling. So we were opening the body and then dealing with the memories and talking, and then opening the body and learning to regulate and learning to train the mind and the body all together. And it was so impactful that my husband and Jim, my husband, helped me do this. And we decided to write a book about it.
I see. And
share it with others. And when we'd go to conferences, we'd go to these school conferences for school counselors and teachers, and there were all these heavy duty lecture on suicide, on drug addiction, on, depression. And it was heavy. And they'd walk into our room and it's like, lie down. Let's listen to your body. Let's listen to some soft music. Let's breathe. And we were swamped. And I realized we found something that the schools were not really addressing. The body, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we wrote the book, and it was interesting because there's a chapter on social emotional learning. And when we gave it to several teachers at that time, this was in the early 2000s, they put great big X's on the trauma chapters. We don't need that. We don't want anything to do with that. And I'm like, I'm keeping it in there. They do too.
Yeah.
And now, of course, years later, everybody's
That's what
learning about
everybody's doing.
We're starting to understand the impact of trauma in the schools.
What is the title of that book? And what's the title?
It's called YogaCalm for Children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done like further editions, or has it it's stood the test of time in its original form?
We've changed a few things, but we haven't written any more books. It's a lot of work to write a book. I have 2 children's books too.
Cool.
I have one called Good People Everywhere and Little Banny Chicken and Little Banny Chicken. And there's some other part of the title, which I'm forgetting right now, which is weird.
Yeah.
And The Big Dream. No, that's not it. I don't remember the title of my own book. Isn't that terrible? Anyway, Good People Everywhere has been very successful because it's about looking for the good people in the world and focusing on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sounds like from the book and then the outreach through conferences, expos, things like that. And then did YogaCalm, the organization school, develop out of that, or share a little bit about that process?
Yeah, it did develop. I mean, we taught the workshops at conferences, and then we created modules, module 1, number 2, and number 3. We did 3 different classes. The first one's basic yoga and learning the basic ideas. The second one is more about the physical practice and learning more of the physical practice. And then the third one was about the emotional and social component of it and how to really weave those 3 things in. And then we certified teachers and counselors and moms to be able to go out and teach it themselves to kids. So we created a certification program.
Cool.
And often the way it worked was grassroots. We found it was much easier to get one person in the school interested, and then they keep bringing people. We tried doing it school-wide, which was effective sometimes, but whenever you have something that is mandatory, you get half the people that are interested and half the people that aren't. And it was actually more successful by bringing the people that really liked it in first and seeding it. I kind of think of seeding it in the schools. Yeah. And then they'd bring friends, and that's the way it was the most effective.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. How when and why and how did TRE kind of come into your
Good question. Yes. So I started doing private practice. I started to reduce my hours at the school because it was a lot. And I started working with adults and private clients. And I started seeing that there was something missing. something around the body still, like yoga wasn't quite getting to it. And I was wanting to find help for some of my clients. So I found David online, and I told Jim, I'm like, I think I want to try this. Oh, I tried it. And I did it with one client, and he slept better than he'd slept. I'm like, ooh, there's something to this. There's something I know is happening here. So I went to a workshop up in Canada with David, and immediately had a strong impact for myself, and invited David to come to Portland. And then we kept bringing him to Portland. And that's when I became a provider and really understood what a powerful tool it was.
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds like TRE, totally resonated with you, some of your adult clients. And then did you pretty soon start bringing it into youth populations, or?
Well, I taught my daughter right away when she was 3. And I would introduce it to parents, and we did it a few times with parents and families. And I did. I was working in a clinic, and I had some amazing experiences in the clinic. Although clinics, it's not at that time, I'm not sure where it is now, it wasn't evidence-based.
Right.
So the clinic was not real happy that I was introducing it.
Yeah.
So I had better luck in private practice.
Got it. We're closer now than we were then. I just came back from Honolulu, and I presented on TRE at the IVAT conference, which is a trauma conference. And there it is mostly social workers. So I had to kind of bone up on the, kind of how the research is developing. And I actually was pleasantly surprised that, yes, on the one hand, there's still lots and lots of room for improvement, but in terms of expanding the evidence base, but especially in the last 3 to 4 years, there have been some more significantly controlled trials that are putting things on a firmer evidence, sort of closer to that evidence-based standard, or I'd say meeting that standard now, but at a scale that needs to grow.
Great, that's going to help. But I mean, yoga wasn't evidence-based because it's hard to study some of these things, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
So even though it is an evidence, if it is, that's great, that's going to help us. But even if it isn't, it's possible to bring it in as a tool, just like we did with yoga.
Yeah, wonderful. What about, kind of bringing this up to sort of present tense? I mean, you teach TRE. I imagine you're still certifying people in YogaCalm. I mean, what are your current activities?
Yeah. We actually, our certification is now online. We don't do it in person. We do retreats once in a while, but we aren't actively teaching in person online. They can take the class. It's all digital now. Yeah. Which I like. It's nice for us, but I miss the contact with people. But we've really shifted more to teaching TRE. Yeah. And now, actually, just recently, I'm blending them a little bit more and seeing the benefit of blending the two, because I think there's a lot to be done there.
Yeah.
And I actually have taught, so before COVID, we always did a week-long retreat in the summer. And every summer when I did that YogaCalm retreat, I'd teach TRE I offered it as an option. If anybody wanted to come, they could. And so we have had teachers and counselors come to TRE from the schools because I just introduced it in those workshops.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so tell us just a little bit more about using TRE with youth or with parents, those kinds of settings, which you've done a lot of. Like, what differences do you think there are, if any, or what adaptations when you're teaching to a teen or adolescent population as compared to sort of standard TRE? Do you explain it differently? Do you practice it differently? Do you adjust the concepts? What's it like to translate TRE to youth audiences?
Yeah, it really depends on the situation. I mean, one of the things that I think is really important to look at the culture, look at the family culture or the school culture or whatever culture you're going into. And I think it's really important to get at least a few adults in the community who know about it, because it's hard on a child. So when I'm not in the schools now,
Mhm,
So
right.
now I'm acting as somebody going into the school from outside of the school.
Yep.
When I was in the school, it was a little easier because
Yeah.
I was part of that system and I knew that culture and it was available to me every day.
Yeah.
But coming into a new school as somebody who doesn't work there is a little less easy for me. But I have to have some idea of the culture. And I think it's important to start with giving a little information to the teachers and training a few adults. That's my first goal.
Makes
Is
sense.
to get some people coming. That's why I taught it at the workshops. And then they start to bring it in, and then they start to tell me, this didn't work for this reason, or these are my concerns. And they're different concerns based on, like a school in a low income, highly traumatized school is going to be very different than a private school that has a lot of people that can afford to do different modalities. So and less trauma perhaps, but not necessarily all.
Right.
So anyway, they help me. Like right now I have 3 teachers and we're all talking about how do we bring it in. And they all have different communities and they're all giving me advice about their communities. So that's the first piece. And then the second is with families, it's same thing, the culture of the family. If the parent is, let's see, one of the mistakes that happened in the beginning is that I would have parents that were really adamant about it and almost pressured their kids into it. And the kids found it really awkward. And the parents kept trying to insist, which made the kids turn away from it.
Sure.
And the other thing the mistake that I made in the beginning was that parents would often do big work in front of their kids. I'd do a family session and the mother or the father would go into some big emotions and it scared the kids.
Yeah.
And then the kids never wanted to come.
Right.
So I had to begin to start to think about first working with the parents, getting them to understand it. And then you can do it with your children, but you are there to support your children when we do it with your children. You're not there to do it for your own work
Right.
when
Makes sense
with
to
your
me.
children.
Yeah, I can
Does
see
that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Are you doing that now? Is that idea of a family session sounds very interesting. Is that
occasionally.
active for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, my practice is smaller than it used to be. I could have a lot more people than I want to be, but than I want right now. But it's less often than when I first started doing TRE. And I think I'm still learning some things. I do more with individual kids and occasionally a mom and a son, or a mom and a dad. I did do a session with 2 kids and the parents, but I worked with the parents first.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, coming back to this research topic, the one of the what will hopefully be a useful study when it's complete is one of the ones in China right now that's set up as a randomized controlled trial, which is good from the sort of research quality perspective. But that one, I think right now they're recruiting, but that one's going to be 140 dyads. It's mothers and their adolescent kids, and they're going to learn TRE as an intervention together. And I believe it's teens with, it's either depression or anxiety or both or something like that. That's the sort of target. It's at a psychiatric hospital, I think, is the location. But that I found that to be an interesting study design. So it'll be the teen plus the mother specifically learning TRE over an 8-week period or something, and then they're measuring. They're doing subjective reporting, but then they're also measuring heart rate variability and brain waves and things like that. So that will be an interesting one to see.
That's great. I did some work with some teen girls in a clinic that served teen girls that had been sexually abused.
Right.
And one of the things that happened was that even though we said only do it for 5 or 10 minutes, teens don't really listen to boundaries very much.
Right.
And they were overdoing it and getting triggered in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Waking up with nightmares. So one of the things we added was that each had a pal that it was a residential treatment center. So they lived there.
Yeah.
So they each had a pal that agreed that if that happened to you in the middle of the night, you could wake them. Sort of, I mean, sometimes I think of AA, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous, as
Sure.
a great example, because one of the things they did is build community.
Very
So
much
that
so.
when you're doing this work, you can find somebody in the middle of the night or something.
Right.
And
Right.
for populations like that, I think we need to be ready for any memory or pain that comes up to have the support built into place.
Yeah.
And that's easier to do in some communities than others.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do if the community has no idea about shaking or tells them they should stop shaking. And unfortunately, I had, for instance, one man that worked in a residential center, and he said as soon as kids start shaking, they give them an injection and stop the tremoring. So he had to really change the culture of the place
Right.
before they, and we tried, but and sometimes an introduction isn't long enough, you know. It's like staying with it is what I'm interested in, keeping it going,
Oh, totally.
you
Yeah.
know,
No, you can't really judge it from a one-off experience. It's
or
the
even 6 weeks.
right,
It's hard.
exactly. It's some continuity over time is what's going to
Yes.
move the needle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, one of the reasons that that I asked you to talk was, you know, we've had that David Berceli, the TRE founder, you know, kind of raised through email and some other channels, sort of this kind of his concern that, boy, you know, social media has become a big force, you know, in the last, 20 years, and currently with people talk about the positive, but also the negative effects, and especially on youth potentially. And there have been some recent lawsuits and things where parents are kind of going after some of the social media companies with the claim that, that they're knowingly addicting children and having adverse effects and things like that. And Dr. Berceli's question was, how can we get the message out to youth that body-based methods, TRE, other nervous system aware methodologies could be one piece of a self-care tool to sort of combat, sort of the digitalization of our lifestyles and our brains, perhaps. And I know it's an area where you've had a lot of conversations and work with your own populations and clientele. So I was hoping we could kind of touch on your experience with that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think, again, we have to look at the big picture of the culture. And I mean, I work with a lot of school teachers and counselors, nurses, psychotherapists. They're all overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they have to, in a lot of ways, go against their instinct a lot, because the culture itself, the system itself is unhealthy.
Right.
Right. So when we live in a culture where we have to ignore the signs that our body is giving, and we're asking kids to now listen to the signs that their body is giving, or even to the teachers don't want to live in the way the system is asking them to live anymore, which is a bit of a difficult spot, right? So there's not a lot of somatic education in public schools or in families. There's a lot of academic focus. Everybody's worried about what they're doing academically, which is very heady. And because there isn't somatic education, kids are not touched in or tuned in to what their bodies are feeling. And that's one of the things that yoga started to help them do. As a matter of fact, counseling went so much better if I had them lie on the floor, just feel your body and tell me, because I'd have a half an hour. I'd have 10 kids and a half an hour, and I needed to listen to every one of them and then send them back to class. That's the culture I was living in, right? And that's the culture that every school counselor is living in. Yeah. So if I had them lie down and just like find one thing that's really important in your heart to share with me, the counseling sessions were so much more effective. And the yoga helped. But one of the problems was then people started to want to use yoga to calm students down and get more academic rigor.
Yeah. As a means to an end. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is not what the goal was. Right. The goal was to really tune in and start to live from the body, not from the head. And that requires quite a bit of a cultural shift, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was teaching a group of TRE providers recently about TRE in children, and one person said it takes a village, and we all agreed it does. And then another person said, but the villages don't exist. The village of holding children, where they can go and find, oh, if that person's nervous system isn't available, I can go to this person, their nervous system is available. But when the entire school is filled with people who are overwhelmed, there aren't many real nervous systems available. Do you understand what I mean?
Very much so. Yeah.
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 So I think I just want to name that challenge,
Yeah.
that we have to start to educate around somatics in general, around what the nervous system does.
Yeah.
Because telling the kids, oh, this is bad for you. Well, you know, when my parents told me I was going to go blind by watching TV, I didn't believe it. And it was wrong.
Right. Yeah. It was incorrect. Yeah.
Yeah. They've told us all kinds of things, right, that were incorrect. But if they can feel it and experience it, the kids themselves, then they have more understanding of it. So for instance, I had a boy that I worked with listening to their pulse.
Okay.
And they learned, I said, this is a way to know what's happening in your body, to just tune into, is your heart rate fast or slow?
Yeah.
And then I would say, is your heart rate fast or slow when you play video games? They all knew it was fast. And then we talked about, and they said, but it helps when you relax. I'm like, no, that is not relaxation. I'm going to teach you what relaxation feels like. So you know the difference between relaxation and distraction.
Right.
Because the games would take them out of their anxious mind by distracting them away from it. And that's where the addiction comes, because it'll distract you for a while and then the emotions want to be heard. So it'll have to get louder. It's just like any addiction. You have to do more to hold it in.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the kids started to be able to tell the difference. And I remember one moment with a young man that came in and he goes, you know, I've been paying attention and I really don't feel good when I play video games. And I do notice my heart is racing and I don't sleep afterwards. And then his body was the boss, not me. I wasn't the adult telling him what to do. It was his body that was telling him what to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think there's a lot of parallels? So yeah, that makes sense, you know, and about sort of gaming. Gaming is another major force in youth lifestyle and in a digital engagement. Do you think what are the similarities and differences between gaming and social media specifically in terms of, I guess, kind of like the addictive processes, if they're there, the physiological impacts? What's your sense of that?
Yeah. Again, social media tends to grab us by our lower three chakras: fear, hunger, and sexuality.
Yeah.
And they're good at grabbing kids with those three things: fear and hunger and sexuality. Sexuality is a huge one.
Sure.
A lot of young men are getting addicted to pornography. A lot of young women are getting addicted to what they look like and getting perfectionistic about what they look like and believing that they can be whatever they want to be, not who they are. You know, if they want to change the way their face looks, if they want to change the way their hair is, if they want to be a different person, they can be all that online. So it becomes a false reality that isn't connected to who they are inside.
Yeah. And then I wonder too, and then, you know, we know more about the sort of, you know, kind of the dopamine component too, that gaming, social media, there's sort of these, you know, instant gratification, stimulation keeps, you know, sort of instant, you know, and my understanding, which is a, you know, kind of a layperson's understanding in terms of but that, you know, dopamine is, it's evolved to be, that we get more of it when we've sort of accomplished something. So in sort of pre-digital times, you kind of had to do something to get, you know, kind of get something done to receive the sort of dopamine or reward. But that some of these digital things are kind of, they sort of bypass all that, and our dopamine system is being triggered like crazy, and then there's kind of a crash and things like that.
Yes.
What's your feeling around that part?
Well, yes, it's too fast. The dopamine is too fast and too often.
Yeah.
And that's how you get addicted. Whereas in real life, it comes at a different pace, a slower, more regulated pace. Even excitement can be overstimulating, right?
Yeah.
It's not just fear, it's not just anger, it's also excitement, and pleasure can be overstimulated and easily overstimulated through social media. And those are the ways that they are easily hooking young people.
Yeah.
And it is through the body, because they're pulling on parts of the body, the nervous system, that want that kind of like getting compliments or getting social rewards, but they're not true social rewards. They're false, and kids can start to figure that out. The generation that I'm working with now are much more savvy than generations when it first started. Yeah. They're questioning it more. And
well, that's what I was going to ask you, is like in your experience, how are the youth that you've worked with, do they have some self-awareness of sort of the sort of the dark side, the downsides of social media? Like it sounds like you're saying they do see that some of them do have this awareness of the both, and it's fun, they connect to people that way, they maybe learn things, like there's positives, but there are some, they maybe don't feel as good. What's your sense of how well do the people you've worked with sense that?
Yeah. And again, I think it's about having activities that really are in your body, because a lot of the, even though social media is engaging the body by it hooking us, you're not really in your body in the same way when you're doing social media. Do you want to know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the body has a slower pace than the media impacts. Right. The media the response the body has to media is faster than a true healthy response in life.
A well-regulated nervous system response.
Yes, a well-regulated nervous system response. And because if children are raised in a way that, like, they're playing sports, they're playing rough play, they know what that feels like, their parents are doing TRE, their parents are in their body, their community is in their body, then they know they want that. Really, we really do long for that. Mm-hmm. But if we are with a group of people, a community of people that are all checked out, that are all out of their body, they don't even have anything to reference it to. Yep. Does that make sense? Have you ever seen the still face experiment?
I certainly have. Yep.
It's exactly like that, where the parent, and I think the phone is a still face experiment.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
And social media is people blank out. It's like they're gone. Mom, hello, are you there?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as a parent of two young kids, I have a 5-month-old and a almost 4-year-old daughter, and we are aware of these forces, because yes, we use our phones a lot for various things, and we're quite conscious of that. And my wife and I, we say, oh, why don't you, take that to the other room, or, we do, because when somebody's in their phone, they're not available. Their social engagement nervous system is not out there in terms of availability for the kids. And that's, so we try to watch that impact. But it's hard because of how present our phones are in our lives.
Yeah, everywhere now, even in the car and in the restaurants and everywhere, and kids with the phones, babies with the phones.
Yeah.
It's starting really, really early.
We want to cry when we see that. Yeah, we don't.
I know.
Yeah. We're a no screen for the kids. We're a no screen family. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We were until our daughter had to make a PowerPoint and tell us the good and the bad before she was allowed to have a phone.
Good. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that.
And she tried it a few times before she got one, because no, this is too good. You got to tell us the bad parts. You need to be very aware of the bad parts.
That is good. I like that. That's a good parenting tip.
But the TRE, what helped with TRE is it does bring people in. TRE is faster at bringing people in the body than any other modality I've ever used. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to start bringing people into their bodies. Mm-hmm. And I mean, across the board. Right. I have parents that are extreme athletes. They're not in their body.
Right.
They're, as soon as their body gives them a signal, they shut it down and keep going, and they injure themselves.
Pushing and
and people that are the high workaholics that are out there doing, there's a lot of reward for being productive. But they're not in their bodies.
Yeah.
And if we have to all start to have some modality that brings us into our body. And when David talks about slowing down, like doing something in slow motion.
Mm.
That's what we have to start to do, really. Slow everything down. And there's not a lot of reward for slowing down.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
so much more reward for being productive.
All right. So if we were talking to teens, or even say into the early 20s, kind of this sort of teen into, young, very young adulthood group, some of whom might be have very unhealthy volumes of social media use, or just recognize that, wow, that's where they go for self-soothing, self-regulation. They attempt it through social media, but part of them knows it isn't succeeding, or there's major downsides to it.
Right.
How could we explain that learning TRE could be part of a process of maybe even retraining the addicted nervous system, or disrupting this pattern? Well, what's your sense of how could we explain that to them?
Well, sometimes I don't even start with TRE because they find it online and it's a little too weird. So I sort of start slower than that. Like, okay. I have a program called Empower. We teach the kids about their nervous system. We practice listening to ourselves. We listen to our pulse. So we start to understand what this nervous system is and what does regulation feel like, because they don't have some sense of regulation and dysregulation. They can do TRE dysregulated.
Sure. Right.
They can do any modality dysregulated. So adding some nervous system education, I think, is really essential.
Yep.
And also experiential nervous system regulation, not just theory, but practices.
Learning to feel it, notice state changes in themselves. Yeah.
And the students that I've had the most success with keeping it in their lives were people that actually came from my YogaCalm practices and then added TRE, because first of all, there was a trust built, a relationship built. Mm-hmm. They already knew me. Mm-hmm. And they already had some awareness of their body. So when they came across it, they're like, oh, okay, now I get it. I'm aware of this. Mm-hmm. There's a video online with David working with a young man, and his mother trained in my program and taught my program when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And so he came and honestly, at first, he thought it was totally weird. He's like, I'm not going to do that. And my mom does it. It looks weird, right? Yeah. That's the mom thing. Yeah. So he came to do it with me. And the first time he sat in chair pose, he started shaking. He goes, oh, I know this. This is something I'm familiar with. This happens in PE all the time. Okay. And my body's familiar with this. So it's like helping them know it's something they already know. Their body already knows how to do. Yeah. So that one, those were easy sells, and they had tremendous impact from it. Yep. But for some kids, like, I'll tell you another story of a boy that he was in middle school and he had panic attacks, and he came in, and the first time he told me about the panic attacks, his legs started to shake.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, do you notice that your legs are shaking? He goes, yeah. And I go, but let that happen. Yeah. It's natural, your body's natural way. Yeah. He goes, really? And I go, yeah, just let it. He goes, everybody gets annoyed by this. I'm like, I'm not annoyed by it. Just go for it.
Let it happen. Yeah.
The next week, Alex, he came in and he goes, I want to show you what I learned. I go, okay. I never taught him this. He sat up against my wall in chair pose. And he goes, I learned that if I just sit against the wall like this and hold this position, my body will start to shake. And now when I have panic attacks at school, I sit against the wall, I shake, I snap my fingers like I'm listening to some cool song, and my panic attack releases. Wow. Who knew?
That's incredible.
And I said, yeah, who knew?
Amazing.
I really wanted.
Wow.
I haven't given. I videotaped him, but the family hasn't given me permission to share.
Of course. But wow, no, what a cool story of him. Just I mean, that's what we do in TRE. But he all the better that he figured it out for himself. That's going to be the best learning for anyone.
Yeah, and then I say we can do that against the wall on days that he's having anxious. Why don't you do it against the wall while we talk, and you just let it out? And I help him, but I never actually officially taught him TRE.
Sure, right, because he was regulating. You didn't need to.
Yeah,
right.
And he learned. It's almost like they're so much easier to teach than adults because they're not so buried in it. Yeah. And then sometimes they bring it to the parents, and sometimes that's a little tricky. Sometimes they keep it from the parents because they think their parents will think it's weird. The boy that David worked with, he is now a firefighter, and he said, yeah, I tried to get my friends to do it with me, but I showed the video of me shaking. They all just thought it was way too weird, and they wouldn't do it. I kind of wish we had just cut it off at the talking part and not seen the shaking part, because that's what freaks them out.
I see. Well, you got to get
Especially
them
on the
talking.
floor.
You got to get them talking to the New York firefighter guys. They're doing a
I
pretty good job of
know.
normalizing or destigmatizing tremoring within the first responder community. So maybe it'll get there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So those are a few of the ways. And then a lot of times, the times I've gone into schools, I just do it on the wall. One time I had them on the floor.
Yeah.
Took them to the floor, and it was a co-ed group. And as soon as the boys started shaking, the girls stopped, stood around the boys, started laughing at them and making fun of them. The boys wouldn't have anything to do with it after that.
I see. Yeah.
So I don't think that's a good idea. At least, I don't know. I'm still figuring all of this out. So now I don't take them to the floor now.
Okay.
I just do it on the
wall.
Do it on
the wall. Yep. I see. Makes sense.
And and they come up with all kinds of ideas of their own. They want to play certain songs. The other thing they like to do is like, I know how to make my body do this. And they show me it in their arm. They show me, is this it? And it's, wow, I do this all the time. And it's like this light bulb. And then they start to talk about it. And that kind of opens it up. And then it's kind of fun for a while. But now what I want to do is go to the deeper. How do we keep it going? How do we keep that practice going in a way that keeps them in a community sense? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And I'm talking to actually a couple of teachers about how do we do this. Because they've brought it in a little bit too, but it hasn't taken off, right?
Anything you can share on that sort of progress, or what the idea, it sounds like this group is kind of brainstorming ideas on how to make this happen in a positive way. Anything else you can share about how that's going?
Yeah, they talk about having a community of people who understand it. What I think building community is really important. Building a collaborative, supportive TRE community in the globe first.
Sure.
Where we're sharing ideas and figuring it out and what works in one culture and not in others. And then also, if we know how to do that as a collective in a large way, then we can create that in smaller groups and have places where it's practiced and it's not considered too strange. You know what I mean? Yoga was the same way, honestly. Yoga was seen as I brought it into schools in the early 80s.
Right.
And nobody wanted, but I didn't call it yoga.
Weird at that time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't call it yoga. I did it a little bit at a time. Then I got invited to a church to do the yoga, and so they wanted to see what I was doing. They loved it, and I didn't use any of the Sanskrit. And during that time, some teachers came into school and they brought the Sanskrit and the chimes, and it almost ruined it for everybody.
Right, I can see
because
why.
They didn't understand the secular nature of public schools.
Right.
And I think it's important to think about how we do it as with TRE too, so that we aren't just marching in there and all it would take was one child that came out of freeze and started to act out in a way. Let me talk about that for a minute.
To set it back. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Because, when we talk about the arch and when they come out of freeze, and David talks about, you don't come out down here.
Right. You
come out into the feelings that brought you into it, which often can mean anger,
right,
sorrow, talkativeness. And a lot of people, this happened in yoga too, because I started to realize we needed releasing practices. We can't just calm the kids.
Right.
But people don't tolerate that coming out of freeze.
That transition. Yeah. And just for our audience members, Lynea is referring to sort of the polyvagal theory and the idea that if one stress physiology that kids or adults, anybody can be in, is in our freeze immobilization physiology. And that we sometimes represent that as a curve of activation. And then when the good thing happens when we tremor or we start to settle or when we start to transition. But as Lynea is beautifully explaining, we don't just come out of freeze and then we're in a beautiful, relaxed, calm state. Very often there's an activation state, which is healthy in many ways. from a physiological perspective, it's necessary and healthy, but just as you say, it could be surprising. There could be emotions, there could be behaviors that are out of the ordinary. So keep going on, like how can we manage that possibility and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, again, we need a community that understands that, so that if that happens, they're not like, oh, this makes the kids worse.
Right.
Because that happened in yoga too.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we did just a short study, and it showed that the stress levels went up after learning our program.
Yeah.
But you know what went up? Was their awareness of their stress.
Okay.
Before, they had no awareness. I mean, I had kids, when they took the test, the initial questionnaire, I'm like, are you ever angry? And some of the angriest kids said, oh no.
Right.
Like, this is a bad start.
Right.
Because they're not even aware that they're angry.
Right.
Although we all knew that they were angry.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but at
definitely.
the end, they knew they were angry, so the score went up.
Yep.
So what happens is that they start to realize their anger and then want to express it. So I started to create releasing activities, like when kids' rage would come up or pain would come up, we'd go outside and throw a ball against the wall together, for instance, or we'd go out and throw rocks into the stream. I was lucky I worked at a school that had a stream behind us. Yeah. So something that allowed them that release.
Yeah.
And I do that in my program. I talk about soothing is great, but nobody wants to be soothed when they're frustrated. They want to be heard.
Right, exactly.
They want to be able to let it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I had one person say that after their child did yoga, did TRE, this child that was really shy started to talk a lot. Mm. And now realizing, oh, they're coming out of freeze. Mm-hmm. They're starting to use their voice in a way they didn't before.
Yeah.
But that might be annoying to a parent.
Yeah.
So how do we make space and educate around that?
Right.
And the way I do it is just talking about the need for release and the need for soothe. And TRE is the best modality for really releasing. Yeah. But if we're really going to release, then we have to have places in the community where that releasing can occur in a safe way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. You know, I think David, Dr. Berceli, has this wish, you know, and he loves social media for the sharing. I mean, you know, TRE as a modality has been a grassroots phenomenon over, you know, the last basically 20 years, 25 years. Now, some of the grassrootsness has been, you know, he's traveled prolifically to many, many countries. So that's part of it. He's been boots on the ground, as not only him, now, of course, others, but in the early days, it was him. But he himself has leaned heavily into YouTube, going way back, YouTube videos, because I believe he recognized this is how information is flowing, education is happening. And so I think one of his impulses that, as I understood, as he started to comment on this social media addiction and connecting to youth, is I think in his mind, part of our responsibility in the TRE world is meet the youth where they're at. Now, some of us are going to meet them because we're school teachers and so we're going to meet them in that setting. And I think another one of his ideas is, okay, but also, can we reach them right where they live on social media? Could there be educational videos that maybe even explain, hey, this is why you feel pulled to your phone, and this is what your nervous system is trying to regulate, and here are some tools and ideas that could help do that. And I think we live in an era that, to me, there's good and there's bad about people learning so much wellness things online. I mean, the downside is that there can be misinformation, there can be superficial levels of understanding. People can try things on their own that maybe they should be doing with others. That's sort of the downside. The plus side is the spread of information. I mean, I look at breath work, I look at TRE, so I kind of see this both and. But what's your sense? Is there an opportunity to do some of our educational work through social media kinds of channels?
I do. I really do. And I think it's teaching the kids discrimination. You know, can you discriminate between good social media and poor social media, things that are healthy for you,
Yeah.
and things that aren't healthy for you. And not everybody, I work with a lot of Native American, I have Native American teachers, and they talk about medicine, and that everybody has good medicine, and what's good medicine for you may not be so good for someone else.
Yeah.
So your body will tell you
Mm.
what that, like what social media is healthy for you and feels healthier afterward, feel more in yourself and more like yourself, and what's taking you away and giving you false ideas. And actually, because my daughter's 15, I have a lot of young people, and they're so savvy. They don't believe as many. They're a lot like, that's AI. No. And they actually play games with try to trick, like, can you trick somebody and try to, it's like they're playing with that idea of what's fake and what's not and what's, and they're actually, I think they all long for human contact and real contact.
Yeah.
And that isolation alone in their rooms, that's dangerous, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Getting them back out of the rooms, not having social media in your room and some of that sort of thing. But I think they're learning so much on social media, and it's amazing what they're learning, but they need to learn how to discriminate and feel it and challenge it. But then I think there's so many things. Our daughter, she's studying ASL, American Sign Language, and she's also very interested in being an auditory, what do you call them?
Like
There's
a
a word
speech
for 'em.
language pathologist, or
No, testing the ears.
oh, okay. An
An
audiologist
auditory provider. You get your ears tested.
Okay.
And she's like, your hearing is really important. And she said she wants to make a video saying, do you want to hear the sound of your child's voice when they are born? Don't hurt your eardrums, as a way of getting kids to turn down the decibels. Because all the parents are telling the kids to turn down the decibels, but the kids aren't listening. But she's mathing it out. She's like, this is too high. If you do this for so long, you may not hear your child's voice later. So connecting it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that those are some ways that we can start to get them to understand what the impact is on their body and help them make decisions, not based on a lecture, but based on what their body's telling them and what we know about bodies and how it will impact bodies. Yeah.
That's cool. That sounds like your PowerPoint parenting style has paid off. Now you have a child who naturally creates a presentation when she wants to share some information. So that's very cool.
Well, and she's been to our retreats. She's watched our PowerPoints too. So, and it's a thing they do in schools now anyway. They present with slideshows and stuff.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, this has been so interesting. I guess maybe just by way of closing, see if there's if there's a piece we haven't picked up, or if there's a closing thought, or what else should we? Yeah,
well, you know what I think would be interesting, Alex, is to think about the TRE community and how to grow this together. To get parents and teachers and counselors in a room together and really talk about how this could be done and work it out and share ideas. I think that's starting to happen more and more. And we all have so much to share, and doing it around the planet. And wow, I mean, I'm learning from different communities around the planet and how it works. You and I got to work with the African women, right? That was lovely. And I just think that stay hopeful and in the solutions, not in the problems. Yes, the problems are there, name them, but let's move toward what can we do? What's possible?
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
That just the global thing is exactly correct. I'm always amazed at the cool stuff that's going on around the world. I haven't followed it super closely, but I'm aware of there's two women in Slovenia, Katja and Spella, I believe.
Yeah, I met them briefly.
Did a pilot study of something with TRE in youth in an educational setting. So I totally agree with you. The idea that, I mean, it's definitely happening in Africa. We know it's the research project in China. I'm sure all the various TRE communities in Brazil, South Africa, I'm certain that there's people who are doing youth work. So yeah, if there could be a sharing of
Yeah.
collective knowledge, I'm sure that would be part of this direction of growth.
And I think it's one of the things David did really well when he spread it was he took it and let them tell him.
Yeah.
How does it work I remember him telling me about once he took it to Africa and they found if they danced, it worked better.
Yeah.
So letting everybody tell us what works for them
Yeah.
instead of us being the
The
ones
authority.
that know. I have no idea what will work in I want to know from you. It's more interesting and fun, And I love that about how the way he spread it that way. He didn't get really dogmatic.
No, not at all. The opposite. The opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about what could come and making a community in TRE to discuss these things about bringing it to children and youth. And
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Lynea, thank you so much for sharing your story and then also just your expertise on this topic. It's been really interesting.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it for today's episode. We hope you found inspiration and new insights into the power of neurogenic journaling.
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It really helps us reach more people interested in this transformative work.
And if you want to dive deeper, connect with us. Or to learn more about our sessions, courses, and upcoming trainings, head over to neurogenicintegration.com.